Introducing Ellie Rittenberg.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Dr. Singer. That was, I'm not sure if everyone here would agree, but very educational. I'm sure you all have learned a lot, and probably all your mindsets have completely been changed. Butter, fat, it just seems like completely opposing to what we all know has been, completely different than what we've been raised on. So my story begins about 10 months ago when we came back from the States last summer, where we were getting ready for school. It was like a week before my son starts first grade. And I noticed some strange behavior, thirstiness, frequent trips to the washroom. And I, just told my husband maybe it would be best to take him to Dr. Singer. Of course, he's our pediatrician. Great circle here. And he said, sure, no problem. I already had made a beautiful high-carb meal, barbecue, buns, bread for sure. And he took him in, and about 20 minutes later I got a call back from my husband, and he said, Ezra has diabetes. I'm like, no, can't be, not our family, there's no history, I give whole grains, brown rice pasta, we do vegetables, there's no way. And he's not even a sweet junkie, can't be, not possible. Maybe Dr. Singer's a little overreacting, I don't know, but pack your bags, let's go. I'm like, could we first eat our dinner? Like prepared already, let's just eat. Fine, so we ate, and then we were off to the Miyun. We didn't even know what the Miyun is. We actually knew Olez also. We're like, what's the Miyun, Dr. Singer? He's like, the emergency room. So like, okay, so we go, and yes, they confirmed Dr. Singer's diagnosis that Ezra has type 1 diabetes. So we were there for the weekend, and my son also was like, I feel fine. Like, what's wrong? Like, he stopped thirstiness, stopped going to the bathroom. What's the big deal? Why am I in this hospital? After a while, we tried to explain to him that, his diet would probably have to change, but, speak to a 7-year-old, he doesn't really know what that means. We left, and that was the story. Right before we left, they taught us, okay, a little bit of carb counting, and here's an insulin pen. Okay, great, I'm sure we'll figure this out. Come back in a couple days, and we'll tell you a little bit more, but for now, just, dose according to these instructions. Okay. We come back, and then he started first grade. What a transition, sitting at the desk and saying goodbye was, very, very topsy-turvy. In any case, we go back to the hospital a couple of days later, and they start telling us, sure, your son could have anything he wants, bagels, bread, ice cream, sure, this is how you carb count. Look at the nutritional facts in Hebrew. The word is pachmimo. Look at those carbs. Make sure you dose accordingly. Okay, remember telling my husband, it seems a little odd. Why are they telling us things that are, high carbs, it's not good for him, there's definitely sugar in it, it doesn't seem right. And again, we were a very healthy, conscious family, definitely we're with the whole grains, but we felt that there was something amiss. In any case, we followed directions. What do we know? He's diabetic, there's nobody in our family diabetic, gotta listen to the doctor, right? So we continued with that, and we noticed that, not, 100%, but certain behaviors on his part was a little bit, a little off. He may have been like a little bit more tense, or, struggling for like a little stress related, when post meals. We weren't sure. A couple months later, we decided we're going to get him on a CGM. It's a continuous glucose monitor. It's a little sensor that he wears, and it comes with a nice little, computer type thing that tells us his number. And it, totally gave us such new inspiration, new revelation of light. After he would have these hard carb meals, we see his numbers would go to 200-300, which a non-diabetic person would have between 70 and 120. But we were seeing, of course, after these high carb meals, 200-300s. And then we would give the insulin, and of course insulin doesn't really match the carbs. So, he would stay 200-300 for about an hour, 90 minutes, and then the insulin kicks in, and then he drops. And if you didn't calculate your carbs right, it may have been a too far drop, and you're dealing with a low. So it was a little bit of a topsy-turvy high carb game, but we definitely learned a lot from this continuous glucose monitor. So I said, what, forget it, no carbs. I'm not dealing with, this type of behavior. I'm not dealing with these highs. It's ridiculous. Why should a 7-year-old boy have a bagel and go like this? So I said, what, I'm going to try starting to cut those carbs. Let's do light bread, forget the pasta. I was really trying to, take away a lot of food from him and see how his numbers did. And they were great. They were good numbers. Of course, he still went a little high because that insulin doesn't kick in, but it wasn't 200-300s. He was maintaining nice levels. And then we had our follow-up at the endocrinologist 3 months later. Then she's like, oh, his numbers seem very nice. Let's weigh him. I'm like, okay, let's weigh him. And then he goes on the scale, and he's lost weight. And she's like, what are you doing to him? I'm like, I'm taking away carbs. So she's like, no, you can't do that. You need to be giving 50 carbs per meal. I'm like, per meal? I'm like, I don't even know he's getting 50 carbs per day. So she's like, no, he's not going to grow. It's not good for brain development. And giving, you know, the Jewish guilt, like a mother would be like, was like running out the door to go find a high carb meal. So we go home and I'm like, okay, I mean, I guess that must be we have to follow the doctor. So we go back, and again, we're back on the carbs, seeing the highs. I'm like, you know what, I don't know, I'm like beside myself. So I remember in the beginning when my son was first diabetic, my sister, who's here tonight, sent me to get a book called The Diabetic Diet by Dr. Richard Bernstein. And he basically talks about people who are on diabetes to have a low carb diet. Again, just like what they had discovered prior to insulin, just do low carb and you'll be fine. So I read the book and I'm like, this is really hard. Like, how can a 7-year-old, you know, take away cereal, take pasta? It's like, I can't do it. I already tried, I can't do it. So I got in touch with, I was on a Facebook group for support for type 1 parents, and I saw this lady, she was, you know, telling me she does low carb for her daughter. I'm like, okay, you know what, I tried this once, but, you know, my endocrinologist is going to kill us. So she's like, don't worry, I have recipes, your son will gain weight, don't worry, we've been on it for 5 years, my daughter is doing very well, you could, you know, there's no problem with it. So I said, fine, just start sending me recipes, give me bread recipes, give me things that will make them gain weight. She's like, okay, it's not only taking away the carbs, but you have to also give him the fat. And that high fat will kind of give him a satiated feeling where he's not where we used to have, I'm hungry, I'm like scrambling for cucumbers. But now I do very nice, you'll see, I'll show you, do very nice, huge, you know, fattening foods for him, like ice cream. And again, this is all with Sweet Tango, which we're selling. But aside to that, we were starting to see much better numbers, taking away the carbs. And this lady Malky Poor just really helped save, you know, helped save Ezra and his high numbers. At the same time, when this was all transpiring, my husband went into Dr. Singer and said, like, we're giving up. This is like impossible. What are we supposed to do? Like, his numbers are only good if he has no carbs, but, you know, our endocrinologist is going to kill us. So Dr. Signer at that time handed my husband the LCHF pamphlet. He came home with it, and he's like, Ellie, look. And I'm like, oh, I think I'm already doing that kind of ish. Dr. Singer, our pediatrician is okay, my endocrinologist is okay, okay, this is fine, I'm following Dr. Singer. I went through the pamphlet, I noticed again what Shelley had said earlier, her on it, I made sure it was the same Shelley had done, and we connected as I had her for the Pilates instructor. So it all basically comes down to the fact that, again, as Dr. Singer pointed out so nicely in his presentation, that in my specific instance, again or my son's specific instance, with dealing with you know, a diabetic who can't really have the sugar, where it's, you know, where it's definitely, you know, causes a taxing besides for any complications that could come with high blood sugars for a diabetic, you know, it comes as really as a big savior for us. And, you know, I think that just, you know, from hearing his speech, it really gives me a lot of confidence, even though I know, and there's a whole world of type 1 diabetics who are out there who do follow LCHF. It's not just Dr. Singer, and there's many endocrinologists. I don't know anybody here who has anyone related to diabetes, but there's a lot of endocrinologists who don't go for this, and they just say it's hard. It's impossible for a little kid who's 8 years old not to, but I'm going to show you my presentation that my son is not missing out on anything. There are so many alternatives, and we're going to go through it. So if we could just explore the slideshow, we'll go through LCHF. Just so everyone knows, LCHF stands for low carb, high healthy fat. Okay, so basically we're trying to eliminate, it's not no carb, it's low carb. So again, we are allowed to have some carbs, but we try to stay on the lower end. So low carb, high fat, so high healthy fat. So I can no longer eat anything, right? There's no all foods have sugar in them. It's completely impossible, right? So there's no sugar also mean no fruit. So we have a section where, you know, when we're looking at the carbohydrates and we're saying, okay, is it impossible to survive here? Can we do without it? But yes, we have protein. Protein, so many examples. You guys are probably already having chicken, meat, turkey, fish, eggs. They're all allowed. Fruits, on the other hand, as Dr. Singer mentioned, are seasonal. We should only be sticking to the fruits that come into seasons, and berries, because they are on the moderate carbohydrate. Again, we should also be moderation. Don't have 2 nectarines a day. You know, I give my son one day, and then I skip the next day, you know, of course. So the next one is, can I still eat dairy milk? As we know, there's lots of lactose in milk. Is it possible? So we know that dairy is allowed, and it's preferable to have, as Dr. Singer mentioned, it's 30% cheeses. It's better to have the higher fat cheeses because those are lower in carbohydrate count. Carbs in Israel is puffed milk. I don't know if everyone's familiar. Again, So, and also I noticed with my son that for milk, he responded well to 4% milk, 4% goat's milk. I know everyone might get a little queasy with goat's milk. He seems to think there's nothing wrong with it, and he's fine with it. Also for milk, people use a heavier cream. But again, it's all into your own liking. Okay, so a lot of people also have this complaint, well, is going on this LCHF diet more expensive? And am I allowed to still eat outside my home, like restaurants? So we have a lot of people who are, again, the main thing here is that when you go on the LCHF diet, you're getting rid of a lot of things, okay? It's hard to comprehend, but you're getting rid of breads, and you're getting rid of crackers, and snacks, cookies, and so on and so forth. So you're definitely saving money in that way. And then in terms of going out for dinner or going to somebody else's, you could actually, order those same proteins. Just swap out your side dishes for a vegetable. You don't have to have the potato or the french fries. Get, the LCHF allowed vegetables. So it's not that the staples here. So almond flour. Almond flour is basically the big replacement to flour, okay? Shelly will tell you a lot about it. And almond flour is costly, but it doesn't go into everything, but it is the substitute for being on the LCHF diet. So 1 kilo could cost you between 75 and 90 shekels, depending on where you're shopping. Sweet tango, which is the #1 replacement for sugar, is about 34 shekels. We're selling it for a little bit less. Your coconut oil, again, is the fat here that we're using for frying, or butter. So again, it's on your preference. The proteins are still exactly the same, so you're still eating meat, chicken, fish. If you want to do organic eggs, which I do, is also available. High chocolate also as well. Okay, so how do I start following the LCHF diet? So now you might think, okay, so this seems a little bit more impossible, but no. There are many recipes that you probably are already doing that you could just replace certain vegetables. Like again, tonight I made the shepherd's pie, common replacement. Just take out the mashed potatoes, you could put mashed cauliflower. Quiches, my recipe is exactly the same, I just don't buy the crust anymore. Lasagna, instead of using noodles, you could use strips of eggplant or zucchini. For pizza, my son has many different options. For crust, you could have a cauliflower crust or something made out of cheese. For breadcrumbs, you could use almond flour. And for sugar, I just use sweet tango and Dr. Singer's famous crackers that he has brought here today. So again, it's really, you really just have to be a little bit more creative. I don't think it's impossible, especially for the meals that my rotation that I had, it was fine. Okay, so now let's say you couldn't do your replacements with your own meals. Where can I find recipes on LCHF? So first, by starting, Shelly has her great classes, and she's definitely a good source of information. But the web is entirely filled. All you have to put in is low carb blank, and it will send you recipes. I'm also on Pinterest. I have hundreds of recipes that I've tried, approved, tested, approved. I put it on my own Pinterest board. Again, there are many options for people. The web is just uncharted territory. It was like, as I told Shelly, she's like, it's like winning the lottery ticket. I showed her this place. Okay, so here again, Dr. Singer touched upon this a little more. This is basically what my son goes through. Example meal for breakfast, he'll have an egg or an omelet with cheese. Again, that's 30% cheese. You could have anything you wanted. He likes olives, but you can put mushrooms, kale, any of that. I actually ventured out and I made a homemade cereal. He said the cutest comment. He's like, it was worth getting diabetes to eat this cereal. He said that. And he has the 4% milk. You could use unsweetened almond milk too, or cream. But that was that. And also fat yogurts or waffles. Okay, so for salads, my son takes every day for lunch he takes a salad. And you can be creative. There's so many LCHF vegetables. He has turkey usually, or one day he'll have egg and cheese. But everyone knows what you can have in terms of protein. And I just started venturing out and making some LCHF breads. Shelly, I think, is also going to make one here tonight. Again, once you have a good bread, you can stick with it. You can put anything on it. It's just regular. You can go many places. Okay. And for dinners, as mentioned before, you still have your proteins. Lasagna, I make pizza, mozzarella stick, stir-fried vegetables, cauliflower latkes. These are just examples. There's a spiralizer. I don't know if you joined Shelly's class, maybe she'll show you. There's noodles that you can make for it. We have a barbecue once or twice a week. Meatballs, soups. Soups are a great filler. Again, everyone probably is already doing soups here. So you could just continue on with it. There's really no changes, except you just have to make sure that you're going through the actual LCHF approved vegetables. And the best part, the desserts. I love doing this. I love experimenting in the kitchen with desserts, because really when you have a sweetener, when you have a sugar, again, this is not like a terrible sweetener. This has good taste. The sweet tango is not, it's also the ratio is 1 to 1, so you're not like messing up a recipe by thinking a quarter, a 16th, a 34th. So there's so much to choose from. I make them brownies, there's cheesecake, donuts, ice cream, avocado, chocolate truffles. My son has no clue he's eating an avocado. It's great. I'm like, here, have a truffle. Granola bars I make, granola seeds, and of course LCHF approved. So how do I ensure I stay on this diet? So this for me is like, obviously I had to follow this because there was no turning back, and obviously I had the energy to continue with it. But again, I think the main important thing is to plan your meals ahead of time, plan what you want, also have a backup just in case you don't think that it might work out. But then if you plan at least ahead, you'll have a shopping list. And I think the number one thing is snacks. I really do, for my son at least, because kids are usually hungry or running around and asking for this, or maybe they're home on Shabbat and they're bored and I want that. So I feel like having good snacks around is always very helpful for him. And I think in the beginning, if someone wants to take this upon themselves, it might be extreme. And to me it was extreme. It was like, you can't have this. But if you go with the flow and you see if you could do it, then I think that it's it's well worth it, because a lot of people get turned off right away. I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I have nothing in my cupboard, it gets very complicated if you don't have that drive and if you clean yourself out. So I think little by little, if someone could do it, then I think that's really great, especially on the health reasons. Okay, the last thing I want to go to is just, I'm going to show you some examples in terms of some of the things that I made, and then, okay, so the top I have a birthday cake that I actually made here, so I made it into fudgy brownies. The bottom one is cheesecake. The matzo balls, instead of using matzo meal, I use ground chicken. So again, there's really nothing that is missing. It's the same thing. Today I made these 2-ingredient cracker recipes. I was pleasantly surprised. I put tuna and pickles on it. I was like, wow, this is great. And it was actually very, very tasty and very easy. Most of these recipes are not hard and definitely not costly or anything like that. The next one I made last night's dinner was broccoli quiche and pizza. The crust was made out of cauliflower. And the mozzarella sticks are made also from almond flour. So again, these are not difficult recipes and all available and tasty. It's not. I mean, again, my son is 7, now he's 8, but he totally enjoys it. He doesn't say boom. He might just be a good kid, but he definitely enjoys it. These are some also desserts. So I made mini donuts Erev Shabbos. Those are the chocolate avocado truffles. Chocolate chip cookies still available. And then Purim time, this is when I was doing low carb, I had made hamantash from almond flour. So again, like, these things are not difficult. If you want to find them, they're available on the web, and that's basically it.